Chapter 1. Banish duality. Banish duality, the cause of internal division. Singularity, as referenced throughout this book, is the opposite of duality. By duality, I mean the opposite ends of one thing. To illustrate, night is the opposite of day. However, my approach argues that instead of being dual notions, they together make the halves of a single day, hence are singular and non-dual entities. Sun and moon alternate ruling over the same sky. Boiling and freezing are opposite ends of the spectrum, yet H2O is the constant, so there is a unifying force which is the element itself, and so is also singular. Feminine and masculine combine to create life. Without either one, there is nothing. From the two is created the one, which is their offspring. Male and female are singular. Opposite ends combine into a whole, and so duality itself is an illusion. Just as a plot of land must be cleared and tilled before serving as fertile planting soil for a crop, the destructive notion of duality must be uprooted from your mind before transcendental life can take root in its place. This is a simple transformation, but it is not easy. It is difficult because the world is designed to thrive on duality, conflict, and competition. Us versus them. Red shirts versus blue shirts. Our party versus the enemy party. Examples are endless. This way of thinking must be discarded as a non-negotiable first step on our road to achieving peace and self-actualization. Whoever masters this notion can master anything else she puts her mind to. Discarding duality from our life is essential because holding on to this worldview necessarily causes schisms within ourselves, and this dichotomy, by definition, precludes wholeness and peace. In plain language, if we set ourselves up as judge to declare good and evil in others, we must necessarily have good and evil within ourselves. This is an ill way to live, because if we judge anything, we're naturally inclined to judge everything. It should be clear that ceasing to judge is not the same as losing all discernment or otherwise casting away our morals and values. You can be a moral and principled person who does not judge. Indeed, I would argue it's impossible to be one otherwise. You can hold yourself up to a certain standard without looking down your nose at those who choose a different lifestyle. The importance in doing so is that all your thoughts and actions towards another are innately a reflection of how you feel about yourself. If someone else is cast in our mind as an abject failure, it is only because we too are guilty of this. If someone else is dim-witted and slow, that's because we may be also. The human spirit is so comprised that all thoughts and judgments we pronounce over others invariably anoint our own head. Seeing this and accepting it as a universal truth goes a long way at freeing us from the tyranny and prison house of guilt, shame, and inferiority in which we incarcerate ourselves. The trap of duality is the ever-present appeal to our ego, that if that person is different than me, by default I am better. If we banish duality to the point that I can see myself clearly in the face of any other, then judgment and condemnation will not be forthcoming, if for the simple fact that, selfishly speaking, we are loath to judge ourselves. Admittedly, to ask this of you is to ask more than the majority of people are willing to do. This is why transcendental living, although simple, is not easy. Most of us prefer to cling to our petty biases and discriminations. We have pet vices and pet peeves that we relish in pointing out to ourselves and others. The 12 precepts outlined in this book are the result of 40 years of living by mostly violating the precepts rather than honoring them. Therefore, what you read is the fruit of a hard-fought labor. Anything and everything that is right in my life is the happy and inevitable consequence of having adhered to one or more of the precepts, even if unwittingly. I thank God I have reached a point in my life where I am now conscious of the precepts and can live the remainder of my days purposely abiding by them and reaping their abundant rewards. My prayer is that by reading this book, the same may be true of you. A natural parting point for many here will be the tenets of their professed religious doctrine. Not so, I hear them say. Duality is a fact of life. There is very clear right and very clear wrong, and nothing you can say will make me see otherwise. To which I can only respond, the 9/11 terrorists fought on the side of God, with the promise of 72 virgins awaiting them at the end of their heroic sacrifice. They too were fighting the devil and his minions in a dualistic world. And this, precisely, is the schizophrenic break caused by the mind consumed with duality. Your religion is not holier, your God is not more righteous. What's more, we have to stop looking for heaven on the other side of death. Not that we won't find it there, but that we must not wait till death to bring it about. This book intends to show us how to transform this imperfect world into a little slice of heaven for ourselves in the here and now. Religious organizations form a sense of community that largely defines itself by its exclusion from other groups. This is universally the case. Now, it is not my intention to instruct all my readers to abandon their lifelong religious traditions and identities in order to live transcendentally. However, you are being asked to cease judging those outside that tradition as somehow less worthy of blessing, enlightenment, wealth, wisdom, or whatever other boon is derived from being associated with it. It is a simple ask, but not an easy one. The challenge for the reader will be to remain appreciative and respectful of their particular tradition, or lack thereof, while at the same time open-minded enough to accept that it is only one of many acceptable paths to spirituality and soul nourishment. As a fair caution, any who are inflexible in this matter may not learn as much from this book as it otherwise has to offer. It should be clear by now what is meant by duality, namely the tendency and conditioning to constantly split the world and everything in it into two categories, hence dual: good and evil, right and wrong, correct and incorrect, holy and unholy, rich and poor, etc. It is funny to me that before embarking on this project, I had fallen pretty deep into the net of dualistic thinking, particularly with regard to money. Having recently picked up Think and Grow Rich, the timeless self-improvement classic by Napoleon Hill, for the second time. I first read it in my early 20s. And as I meditated on it more and more, I noticed a duality inherent in it, and have consequently set about to bring it into singularity. Here's what I mean. The book brilliantly portrays the unconquerable power of the mind to bring about every reality one maintains in it for a prolonged period of time. Focus on wealth, and you'll attract wealth. Focus on influence and power, and you will have both in abundance. The flip side of that coin is that dwelling on poverty, lack, or hardship will just as effectively bring these into your life as well. The trendy and popular law of attraction concept is sometimes erroneously attributed to the 2006 book and subsequent film, The Secret, where, in fact, that publication is but a watered-down repackaging of concepts Hill had crystallized in writing roughly a century before. This is not to say that Hill himself was the innovator of the concept. He was just the most instrumental in bringing it to light and publicizing it to the modern mind. The Precepts, as outlined in this work, have much to thank for Mr. Hill's insightful writing in the early part of the 20th century. however, are herewith approached from the viewpoint of singularity versus duality. I don't believe anybody alive today can truly be poor, unless they are poor in mind and spirit. As of the writing of this book, the author has made a salary of a little over $19,000 per year for nearly 4 years. But the author is not poor. Poverty is a condition of the mind and of the spirit. You are poor if you see yourself that way, which applies just as verily to seeing yourself as rich. By this I do not mean, nor am I prescribing to adopt certain fantasies and illusions to make your life easier, but in truth, how you see things plays an imperative role in how things actually become for you. The argument here is that riches cannot be measured in dollars and cents, nor in Bitcoin either, for cryptocurrency enthusiasts, nor diamonds, silver, pearls, real estate, stock certificates and holdings, or gold. Wealth, as referred to in this book, is strictly measured by the wealth and quality of one's mind and the health of their bodies and hearts. What good is it to have $10 million in the bank, but a broken, unhappy home or chronic health issues due to unrelenting pressures and stress? Is a happy and healthy 60-year-old that earns poverty-level wages not richer than the 20-year-old Hollywood actress that hates her life and daily succumbs to people and situations she would rather live without? You be the judge. Therefore, by all means think and grow rich. Only be careful in your definition and identifying what is meant by riches. In truth, you may be much wealthier than you ever imagined. The mind that banishes duality can celebrate the interconnectedness in all things. It will be harder for people to irritate you because you will see more of yourself in them and subsequently become more patient. Minor offenses and slights will run like water off a duck's back. If you find yourself growing impatient or irritable, it will be simpler to stand back in a spirit of love and understanding, to accept the differences that make us unique and complementary beings. Yes, personal tastes, experiences, and preferences remain, but by refusing to see others as separate entities from you, you will necessarily cease to have opposition. If there is no opposition, there is nothing to fight against. You will then be free to begin collaborating with forces that used to work against you. Think about the impact such a shift in thinking can have on teamwork in your family life or place of business. The singular individual will not distinguish between themselves and their colleagues, and is therefore naturally able to highlight the talent, efforts, and contributions of their teammates. Such an attitude, especially coming from a place of genuine integrity, cannot help but be acknowledged and reciprocated by those with whom we work. The result is that cosmic-level karma kicks into full effect, and sooner than we might expect, we'll find others singing our praises unprovoked. There is nothing that spreads quicker or more efficiently than word of mouth, and what others say about you tends to ring truer than anything you can say about yourself. This negative injunction, do not, to banish duality, is a necessary prerequisite to living transcendentally. The mind that remains mired in it will not be able to free itself to the point of enjoying the life they would otherwise deserve. Having lived most of my adulthood as a considerably serious Bible scholar, I have faced tremendous challenges letting go of duality, if for the simple reason that the writing, as beautiful, enigmatic, and timeless as it is, relishes the thought of good and evil, light and darkness, us and them. Such extremist thinking actually had me ill for a period in my 20s and even into my 30s. I have since, thank God, been cured of all such thinking. This is not moral relativism. Of course, I understand that there are certain times and places for some things, as there are others for which there should never be a time or place. However, I have decided that whether or not any of that is good or bad is not for me to judge. In a word, if there is a cosmic almighty judge of the universe, it's certainly not me. Therefore, I will stop acting the part. That's what I mean in banishing duality. It is not that light and dark, justice and corruption, holy and evil cease to exist. It is just that I no longer dwell on these things, because there is nothing in it for me but heartache and internal division by doing so. I will not be solving the problems of pain and injustice in the world, and neither will you. Therefore, do yourself and everyone else around you a favor and give up the task. It is a Sisyphus-like undertaking that is bound to prove the same exercise in futility. The 12th and final precept in this book is to adopt singularity, the eternal solution, which is the positive injunction, do, and opposite of the first precept. The needle comes around full circle. The 10 precepts in between act as steps on a stairway to heaven, if you will, that can only be reached if faithfully adhered to. Duality is built into the fabric of society and hardwired into our brains by cultural heredity. As a happy coincidence, can there ever truly be such a thing? I currently have Pink Floyd's Division Bell 1994 concert playing on the other screen of my PC. The symbol for this album and the tour is a circular screen that plays images overhead as the band jams out their timeless tunes. You see, everything is connected. We are all connected. The mind that accepts this completely and consistently will inherit an interconnected world. It will be adept at making connections between seemingly unrelated things, and all the wiser for it. Artists and poets over the ages have made these associations and materialized them in their work, which is why they enjoy the immortal status so few are fortunate enough to attain. Therefore, come on this journey with me. Keep an open mind. Banish duality and prepare to drink in the nectar of enlightenment. And above all else, please do away with any notion or philosophy that tells you that the path to peace and enlightenment is to get out of your own mind and disregard your thoughts. The reason why such philosophies sound like metaphysical voodoo is because they are. Could a mind that was not thinking even write such a phrase as empty all thoughts? Thinking was required to write it. Therefore, it is utter hypocrisy and New Age mumbo-jumbo to say peace is acquired by vanishing thoughts or silencing your mind. I suspect the reason such notions are sold in the first place is to keep their proponents in demand. If I can convince you that the path to fulfillment requires superhuman effort and can only be reached by the privileged few, then you will pay what I ask so as to stay a contender for transcendence. Truly, learning to stop thinking will require infinite guidance and teaching, which certainly helps keep such teachers in business. My mission is different. My mission is to help you discover your own thinking prowess to the point that it becomes unnecessary to even finish this short book. The path to peace and fulfillment is directly interconnected with your thinking. To reach nirvana, we must first divorce the idea of a divided world, and so learn to adopt the unity of mind and soul that keeps our life in wholesome order. All that you touch, and all that you see, all that you taste, all you feel, and all that you love, and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you save, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and every one you meet, and all that you slight, and every one you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. Pink Floyd's Eclipse, from 1973 album Dark Side of the Moon.